This is not a video. This is a spiritual emergency broadcast. Right now. Angels are on assignment. Timelines are collapsing. Destinies are being transferred, and you are either going to rise with it or be erased from the moment you were born to fulfill. You have 24 hours, not 25, to respond in obedience, or the door will slam shut. And once it does, you will not be able to pry it open with tears, prayers, or desesperación. You think this is just another shift? No, this is the divine wealth vault being unlocked. This is the throne room calling your name. But listen, not everyone will enter. Only those who discern the urgency, move with boldness, and respond in time. Delay equals denial. Hesitation is spiritual suicide. You have one shot to grab what's yours, or it will be handed to someone who moves faster. Comment 777 right now if your spirit is trembling. That is not fear. That's your soul waking up. That number is your key to alignment. And to those of you who supported this mission through super thanks, you are the reason this fire keeps burning. Heaven sees your sacrifice. And I speak supernatural blessing over every seed you've sown. Chosen one, don't you dare click away. Because what's coming next is not just a message, it's your divine instruction for survival. Miss it, and you risk being locked out of the very future God has been preparing behind the scenes. Let's begin, and may God find you ready. God's chosen ones. You have 24 hours to respond, or you'll be locked out of it. There is a reason the preparation took years, not weeks. There is a reason the silence was not absent. It was sacred calibration. And there is a reason your feet felt fastened to the ground while others ran ahead. It wasn't punishment. It was preservation, like how a seed must remain hidden in the darkness of soil before it can break open and rise. You weren't being overlooked. You were being overprotected by God Himself to ensure nothing corrupted what He was cultivating in secret. You were not behind. You were being held in divine stasis. Like a sacred architectural structure paused mid-construction, not because it was abandoned, but because heaven was waiting for the precise moment when every piece would echo eternity. Time did not forget you. God shielded you. Because what's coming to you is not merely a blessing, it's a divine rerouting of inheritance. The difference matters. A blessing can be generic. A transfer is intentional. It means something was once under someone else's stewardship, but by divine order, it is now yours. A transfer is not given to the nearest hand. It is delivered to the rightful one. In 2 Chronicles 20:17, the Lord told Jehoshaphat, "You will not have to fight this battle. Take up your positions, stand firm, and see the deliverance the Lord will give you." That is what's unfolding for you now. You're not being asked to fight for what's coming. You're being asked to receive it. But why now? And why do you? What's being transferred into your life in this hour has substance. It carries the weight of generational warfare, the prayers of your bloodline, and the dreams you almost gave up on. It is not a lightweight favor, it's legacy-level compensation. It's not just about money, it's about meaning. Not just provision, but positioning. This transfer includes divine access, uncommon alignment, closed doors, finally unlocking, and long-awaited recognition you didn't even know was coming. And most importantly, it's coming with your name on it. Not your nickname, not your imitation, your true name, the one spoken by God before time began, the one the enemy tried to bury under trauma, rejection, and comparison. But heaven never forgot it. That name is rising, and don't be deceived. This transfer didn't start today. It was released today. The vault of heaven opened on your behalf, but the scrolls were written long before. You're only now stepping into what had already been settled in the spirit. You're not late. You are right on time with divine prophecy. So what will it look like when it begins? Watch for the signs. The movement will be subtle, but undeniable. A stranger speaks to you. A door you never knocked on opens. A conversation you didn't initiate sets you on a new trajectory. You won't need to chase these opportunities. They will locate you like a divine GPS signal locked on your obedience. They will find you in the wilderness. They will arrive without fanfare but with authority. Because what God sends is never late, just invisibly on time. Isaiah 60:11 declares, "Your gates shall be open continually, that men may bring unto you the wealth of the nations." This is the hour when gates open, not because you forced them, but because God commanded them to. But there's a sacred urgency pulsing through the spiritual realm. You have 24 hours to respond, or the door will seal. This is a timed portal. And if you hesitate out of fear or overthinking, you may find yourself locked out of the very thing you were prepared for. And not every transfer goes to the faithful. Some go to the desperate, some go manipulative, and their consequences echo for generations. Take Bernard Madoff. For example, the Wall Street financier once trusted with billions. He misused the trust that was transferred to him and orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history. His name, once praised, became a byword for betrayal. The transfer doesn't just carry blessings, it carries responsibility. And those who mishandle it often find that what was meant to elevate them ends up exposing them. Is it possible that what you've been calling delay was actually divine insulation protecting you from receiving something too early? What if this is the last time the offer will come in this form? Because for some, a missed moment is not just a delay, it becomes a spiritual lockdown. Artist Makoto Fujimura, known globally for integrating Christian faith with traditional Japanese Nihonga art, once said, "God does not waste our waiting. That slow, painful stretch where nothing seemed to move, that was heaven preparing the infrastructure of your spirit to hold what's coming. The longer the delay, the heavier the glory." Now, all of heaven is shifting, and whether or not you feel ready, you are standing inside the fulfillment window. This is not symbolic. This is prophetic timeline mechanics. This is the hour where the door doesn't swing. It either opens or it locks. That's why Jesus said in Luke 19:44, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation. He wasn't warning out of anger, he was weeping out of heartbreak. Because heaven mourns when chosen ones miss their moment out of distraction. There is something waiting to be handed to you. Something heaven has been guarding, not from you, but for you. But the transfer must be received with clarity, humility, and urgency. You were not born to watch others be chosen. You were born to embody the choice. You were not called to survive the cycle. You were destined to break it. You were not hidden because you lacked worth. You were hidden because your unveiling was being timed for the hour of release, just like Moses wasn't revealed until Pharaoh's threats aligned with heaven's calendar. Hiding wasn't rejection. It was a countdown. Psalm 31:15 says, "My times are in your hands. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies." You are not late. You are not behind. You are on time, but you must move now. This is your 24-hour notice. This is not a drill. It's not a rehearsal. It's the beginning of divine recompense. Rise, respond, align, speak, move, pray, Fast. Obey. Because if you delay, you will forfeit what others prayed their whole lives to receive. The transfer is real. The moment is now. Heaven is watching. Hell is nervous. And you were always the chosen one. But soon, what now feels like drops of unusual grace will gather speed and become a flood of divine release. This is not just a metaphor. It is a heavenly reality manifesting in the natural. These are not ordinary drops. They are prophetic indicators, signs of saturation coming to a dry place. And when heaven decides to pour, nothing can hold back the flood. The key to this transfer, it's not a hustle. It's not striving. It's awareness. Awareness is the doorway through which divine timing becomes visible. If your spirit is asleep, even a miracle will pass you by unnoticed. This is not the season to drift like a jellyfish in the current culture. This is not the time to float on autopilot, lulled by routine and numbed by distraction. This is the time to walk like a lion through the thick fog of uncertainty, eyes focused, spirit sharpened. As the late Cardinal Carlo Maria Martini once said, in times of confusion, the Lord does not always speak louder. He sharpens the senses of the faithful. You weren't called to move with the crowd. You were designed to move with clarity. Even when the path ahead is hidden in mist, when an eagle feels the temperature shift, it doesn't panic. It rises higher to catch the invisible wind that others cannot feel. That's you now. A spiritual current is forming, and you were engineered by heaven to ride it. If you're grounded by fear or fatigue, you'll miss the flight path. You must stay alert, because something is already in motion, set into place by prayers you forgot you prayed, by promises spoken over you before you even had the maturity to understand them. This movement didn't begin when you noticed it. It began the moment God said, "Now, off." But here's the truth. If you're not awake in the spirit, you'll mislabel miraculous alignments as mere coincidence. And that mislabeling is not harmless, it is costly. How many doors have we walked past because they didn't look like what we expected? Ephesians 5:14 says, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." This is not poetic language. It's a spiritual directive. Heaven is calling you out of slumber. The light isn't coming later. It's already here, but it can only shine on those who are facing it. When you're spiritually alert, you won't miss your cue. You'll sense the shift before others acknowledge it. You'll step out when logic says wait. You'll obey when fear says freeze. Why? Because the chosen move by revelation, not reaction. They move like rivers cutting through rock, not by force, but by consistency and flow. Elijah didn't hear God in the earthquake or the fire, but in a still small voice, 1 Kings 19:12. And that's exactly how this transfer will begin. Not with explosions, but with subtle nudges like a lock turning quietly inside a long closed door. Not everyone will hear it. Not everyone will see it. But you will, because your spirit is tuned to the frequency of heaven. So, what if the small thing happening right now is the beginning of everything you once thought was denied? What if the whisper you're ignoring today is the gateway to the breakthrough you've been begging for tomorrow? Stay alert, but not anxious. This isn't about fear. It's about focus. This is not paranoia. This is prophetic posture. This is the stance of those who know that when heaven moves, you move with it. This is the same stillness that caused Mary to perceive Gabriel's message, while others heard only silence. This is the stillness that allowed Joseph to follow divine dreams when others would have dismissed them as delusion. This kind of movement isn't always public. It's not announced with banners or lights. It doesn't come with crowd approval. It arrives quietly like dew forming at dawn. It is deeply personal, holy, and unmistakably God. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" The question isn't whether God is moving. The question is, will you perceive it in time? Just like the slow gravitational pull of the moon controls the tides long before we feel the waves, so too is God pulling you toward divine fulfillment. Right now, your soul is being shifted by invisible forces, drawn to choices and environments that seem illogical to the flesh but make perfect sense to the spirit. You'll notice people treat you differently, and they won't even understand why. It's because your spiritual aroma is changing. You'll feel favor in rooms where you once felt resistance, because God has changed the atmosphere. Not just around you, but within you. You'll be drawn to decisions that defy logic, but align with the prophetic blueprint buried in your spirit, because your destiny is beginning to echo in your bones. You'll start saying no to distractions that used to entertain you, because your appetite has matured. You're no longer feeding your delay. You're feeding your destiny. Psalm 32:8 promises, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." You are not stumbling in the dark. You are being led by a God who sees the end from the beginning. Can you feel the atmosphere shifting yet? The animals know when something's coming, before an earthquake. Dogs whimper and elephants migrate to high ground. Creation senses what man often ignores. Romans 8:22 reminds us, all of creation has been groaning, waiting for the sons of God to be revealed. You are not just watching the change, you are the change. A storm is not always a sign of chaos. Sometimes it is the divine broom that sweeps away what no longer belongs. Sometimes it is heaven replanting what hell tried to uproot. And if you've ever seen a bamboo forest after a monsoon, you'll understand. What looks brittle becomes flexible. What seemed dead begins to flourish. This is not survival. This is supernatural elasticity. From the 2005 French film Jésus l'enquête, the Jesus investigation, a once skeptical journalist says, "I did not hear thunder. I heard clarity." And that's exactly how this season will sound. Not loud, but clear. Not dramatic, but définitive. So don't wait for applause to believe you're anointed. Don't wait for signs in the sky when heaven is whispering through your stillness. Don't demand a lightning bolt when God has sent a wind, because when the flood of favor comes, it won't wait for your hesitation to catch up. It will flow where faith already made room. If your spirit is truly tuned in, you won't miss what's already in motion. And that's the key in this hour, tuning in, not striving. Just like a radio left in silence until it locks onto the right frequency, your life right now is waiting for alignment with heaven's signal. The transfer has already begun. It's humming in the background of your circumstances. The question isn't whether it's coming. The question is whether your spirit is positioned to perceive it. The old systems aren't just fading, they're collapsing under the weight of their own imbalance. Structures once held together by corruption, ego, and control are now falling like obsolete scaffolding around a rising cathedral. God is not patching broken systems. He's building something entirely new. And he's assigning the next era of influence and stewardship to those who didn't take shortcuts. Some of the resources and responsibilities being redirected now were once in the hands of those who abused them, manipulated them, or wasted them. But heaven is not unjust. The transfer is taking place not because you were the loudest, but because you were the most faithful in silence. Could it be that the shaking you feel around you is not destruction, but God clearing space for the new structure He's about to unveil through you. Luke 16:10 declares, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And you carried weight others would have collapsed under. You endured assignments that came with no applause, no spotlight, no crowd. You labored in the shadows, not for validation, but for obedience. You didn't chase stages, you stewarded sacred space. And now, you're not being promoted, you're being revealed. The reward is movement. And the doors that felt sealed are beginning to respond, not to force, but to frequency. It's not your effort that is unlocking the next level, it's your alignment. This is why the pressure has intensified in recent weeks. The resistance wasn't proof of failure, it was confirmation of momentum. In psychological terms, what you're experiencing is known as an extinction burst, a final flare-up of resistance before an old pattern permanently dies. Hell knows it's losing access to your life, so it sends one last storm to make you believe you're not ready. But what hell didn't factor in is what the delay did to you. The isolation strengthened your roots. The waiting refined your discernment. The silence taught you to hear heaven in whispers. You were never being punished. You were being positioned, and not randomly, strategically. Like an astronomer aligning a telescope to track a single star light years away, heaven has been aligning you degree by degree to ensure nothing about your trajectory misses its target. A 2-degree misalignment in the natural can mean being thousands of miles off course in the spiritual. That's why the pruning was so precise, because the promise was that important. Romans 5:3-4 reminds us that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character. Hope. Every time you didn't give up, even when nothing made sense. You were being built to carry more than breakthrough. You were being built to carry legacy. And now the time has come. But your eyes must stay open. And your spirit must remain awake. The transfer is not coming to those asleep at the gate. It's coming to those who've remained on post, even when no one clapped. Don't expect this shift to look like what you imagined. Sometimes it arrives wearing the disguise of discomfort. Sometimes it shows up in people you never expected to honor you, or in places that once rejected you. Don't be surprised if God answers your prayer in a package that requires faith to open. Joseph's palace moment came through Pharaoh, a pagan ruler, not a Hebrew ally. Genesis 41:14 says, "So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon." Quickly, no build-up, no ceremony, just immediate reversal. So let me ask you, what if the rejection you're feeling today is actually redirection to the gate that's about to swing open? What if the no that stung so deeply was heaven removing what couldn't carry the weight of what's next? One modern-day example comes from Kristin Smedley, a mother, speaker, and advocate whose 2 sons were born blind due to a rare genetic condition. At first, she prayed for their physical sight to be healed. But as she journeyed deeper into their lives, she said something profound. "I stopped praying for their eyes to be healed and started praying that they would see the path meant for them." Today, both sons are thriving, speaking, studying, and leading others. Her story is a living reminder that the miracle isn't always the change of circumstances. Sometimes it's the awakening of spiritual vision. Isaiah 45:2 says, "I will go before you and level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron." That promise is not symbolic. It's literal. Gates are breaking right now. Bronze resistance is bending under the authority of God's word over your life. But only those who are awake will walk through. Only those who are watching will recognize the opening. Don't get distracted by how it looks. Don't measure this move by how loud it is. Some of the most significant spiritual shifts happen in the quiet, like how the tectonic plates beneath the earth cause earthquakes long before we feel the tremor. That's happening in your life now. You're sensing disruption, but it's really divine rerouting. And while the universe may feel like chaos, in truth, it is a highly ordered system that responds to spiritual resonance. You are not waiting for a random miracle. You are waiting for a prophetic frequency to harmonize with your obedience. Heaven is no longer whispering, it's summoning. The sound is subtle, but the call is unmistakable. So align yourself. Clear the static. Refuse to get distracted. The transfer is not coming, it has started. And it is not about deserving. It is about recognizing. Are you ready to receive it, not just in faith, but in function? Because heaven is not waiting on your perfection. It's waiting on your participation, and what has been slowly building beneath the surface is now spilling into your visible world. This isn't random. This is the rhythm. What once resided in the unseen realm of potential is now entering the tangible realm of manifestation, and it's carrying your name, your true name, the one heaven whispered when you were formed in secret. The weight of this moment can no longer be ignored. What was hidden is now undeniable. Some of you are about to wake up to news that shifts your entire trajectory. It could be a single yes from the right voice, someone positioned by God to unlock what you couldn't force. Open yourself. It might be a divine connection. One conversation that leads to provision, partnership, or clarity. It may be the door you gave up on long ago, swinging wide as if it had never been closed. And when it happens, it will feel sudden, but in truth, this moment has been slow cooked in heaven's timing. Could it be that what you thought was forgotten has only been preserved, waiting for your faith to rise to the level of your promise? Psalm 102:13 reminds us, "You will arise and have mercy on Zion, for the time to favor her." Yes, the set time has come. The time was always coming, but now it's here. What felt delayed was never denied. It was just developing in the unseen. This is the nature of divine transfers. They are quiet in the process, hidden like seeds in the soil, but when they burst forth, their fruit is undeniable. The shift may happen in a moment, but the weight of what it carries will echo for generations. And when it hits your life, you will know. You won't need confirmation from others. Your spirit will leap like John leapt in Elizabeth's womb, Luke 1:41. Something inside of you will come alive. Your confidence will begin to rise not from ego, but from alignment. The atmosphere around you will feel tangibly different. Rooms will notice before you speak. People will sense something has shifted before you even announce it. That's what it feels like when favor finds its rightful address. But here's the thing, this moment isn't passive. It's participatory. This is not the time to speak from doubt or fear. This is the time to speak from faith. To decree things that haven't happened yet, as if they already have. Romans 4:17 says of Abraham, "He believed in the God who gives life to the dead and calls into being things that were not." If you've been called to carry something in this season, your agreement must be audible. You must be careful with your language right now. Words are no longer just expressions, they're building materials. Proverbs 18:21 declares, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." You don't just feel your way into this transfer, you speak your way into it. Could it be that the delay you're experiencing isn't a blockage but hesitation in your own declaration? Are you still speaking fear when faith is what heaven is echoing over you? This is a sacred hour where your words carry the spiritual density of bricks. What you declare builds the container for what God is releasing. This isn't about hype. It's about heavenly design. You must agree with what's been set in motion. You must walk like it's already done. You must speak like the promise has already landed. Because spiritually, it has. One powerful voice who understood this principle was the late Maya Angelou, author, poet, and civil rights icon. She once said, "Words are things. They get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, and your clothes, and finally, into you." Her life was a testimony to the truth that what you speak consistently, you eventually become. Maya rose from trauma, racism, and silencing to become a global voice because she chose to speak with purpose even when pain tried to steal her language. But contrast that with the tragic downfall of Jeffrey Skilling, the former CEO of Enron. Once praised as a brilliant executive, Skilling manipulated numbers, masked losses, and deceived investors in one of the largest corporate frauds in U.S. history. His words crafted false realities, and eventually, those lies unraveled, leading to his imprisonment and the collapse of an empire. What began with persuasive language ended in destruction because it was built on deception, not integrity. It's a chilling reminder that the mouth can bless or curse, build or burn. Are the words you're speaking shaping a future God can bless, or are they silently sabotaging the one He's trying to deliver? This window of divine transfer is real, but it demands participation. God has initiated it. The heavens are aligned. But now it's your turn to respond, not with hesitation, but with holy boldness. Your yes must echo louder than your past disappointments. Your declaration must outweigh your doute. Your walk must reflect what you already know in your spirit, because if you don't declare it now, when will you? If you don't walk like it's yours, who will? Hebrews 10:3 Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. For He who promised is faithful. The promise is already in motion. The only thing left is for you to speak and step like someone who knows what heaven just released. This is a moment where your posture matters more than your position. You might not yet have a seat at the table, but the posture of your heart, the quiet reverence, the consistent alignment, the unshaken faith is what's drawing the room to you. In heaven's order, position follows posture. God does not respond to noise. He responds to alignment. And if you carry the right internal frequency, the external opportunities will begin to echo back what you've been carrying all along. Many of you have been sensing it lately. That strange, unexplainable feeling that something is coming, something you can't name but can feel. That's not imagination. That's not wishful thinking. That is the spiritual frequency of alignment vibrating around your life. Like the wind shifting directions just before a new season rolls in, you're sensing the divine current beginning to rise. Have you noticed how even your distractions have started losing their appeal? How is your appetite for shallow things fading? That's not boredom. That's spiritual evolution. Isaiah 60:1 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This verse isn't a future hope, it's a moment. The instruction isn't to prepare for light, it's to rise, because it has already arrived. You're being called into a spiritual visibility that matches the internal integrity you've stewarded in private. And the whisper you hear, "Get ready. It's your time." That's not an echo. That's an assignment. You are the one heaven has been watching in the shadows. The one who didn't take shortcuts when no one was looking. The one who sowed seeds in barren ground The one who stayed grounded when winds of instability blew around you. You didn't become powerful by force. You became unshakable by trust. Could it be that what's coming to you now isn't a reward for performance, but the release for persistence? Could it be that your faith didn't just move mountains, but matured you to carry the mountain God is about to place you on? The clouds are breaking. Everything is aligning, and not in theory, in divine precision. This is not the vague stirring of maybe. This is the unmistakable rhythm of prophetic convergence, like tectonic plates shifting beneath the surface before an earthquake. Something under your life has moved, and what's about to rise can no longer be stopped. The shift is not a feeling, it's a fact. The transfer has begun, not as an idea, but as a spiritual transaction that already has your name on it. This is not just spiritual language, this is spiritual logistics. You are not imagining the pressure, you are not being overly emotional. The atmosphere around you has measurably shifted, and if you slow down just enough, you'll recognize it's been happening gradually, layer by layer, until now, when it becomes undeniable. Romans 8:18 says, "The sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed in us." The glory isn't just coming, it's already prepared, and it's been waiting for you to reach the version of yourself that could receive it without self-sabotage. That's why the waiting didn't destroy you. It developed you. That's why loneliness wasn't a punishment. It was prophetic isolation, like how a cocoon looks like restriction to an outsider. But to the caterpillar, it's transformation. Trees go through this mystery. In winter, stripped of all their leaves, they seem lifeless, but deep underground, their roots are expanding, reaching, digging deeper into the soil. Why? So that when spring comes, they're not just reborn, they're ready. That was you, hidden, seemingly still, but growing in dimensions no one could measure on the surface. Psalm 1-3 says, "He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season." Not out of season, not early, in season. And now, the signal has gone out. In the realm of the Spirit, the frequency has shifted. The dispatch has been released. The angels have been activated. Your name has been marked on the heavenly transfer scroll. This is not general. This is personal. The coordinates have been locked in, and the delivery is not to a crowd, it's to a covenant. What if the favor that's coming next won't land on everyone in the room, but only on those who are spiritually positioned to receive it? What if this is not a season of group blessing, but of individual recognition? From the 2014 Italian film Il Mondo Fino in Fondo, The World Until the End, a quiet character undergoing personal transformation says, "We never hear the beginning of a wave, only the crash when it hits the shore. But that wave started far away, long ago." And that's exactly what you're living now. You're not hearing the beginning. You're standing in the crash. And it's not devastation, it's destiny. This is the moment to ground yourself in faith like never before. This is the hour to fasten your posture like a mountain that refuses to be moved by surface winds. Speak only what builds. Move only as led. Walk like it's already yours. Because this is not a general message. This is the delivery of a divine instruction. This may be the very moment where your deepest prayers catch fire and begin to blaze their way into reality, not in dramatic explosions, but in steady ignition. Not all fire begins with thunder sometimes. It begins with friction, silence, and sparks only heaven sees. And now, the chosen one. The transfer that's unfolding in your life isn't simply about material gain or visible success. No. This moment is about mantle, mission, and movement. Something sacred is being handed to you, something generational, strategic, and weighty. What is coming into your hands is not just wealth, it's weight. It's the kind of spiritual density that reshapes atmospheres, réorient legacy, and redefines identities. This is not a promotion, it's an entrustment. It's the confirmation that heaven no longer just trusts you to believe it, trusts you to carry. And this is why it couldn't come early. This is why you weren't handed the crown in your comfort, but forged in the furnace. This is why the fire came first. Because this mantle is not for spectators. This is a mantle only warriors wear. And you, beloved, were not born just to survive. You were born to govern. You are not the echo. You are the sound that breaks the silence. But could it be that every flame you feared was actually heaven's way of hardening the steel inside you for what you're about to carry? Isaiah 43:2 reminds us, "When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you." You endured the fire not as punishment, but as preparation. And now, the crown is coming, but it must rest on shoulders strengthened through pain. In psychological development, there's a stage known as stress inoculation, a principle where exposure to controlled adversity strengthens a person's capacity for future challenges. What you walked through wasn't random. It was heaven inoculating your spirit for elevation. You were tested in shadows so you could be trusted in the spotlight. You may not notice the shift at first, but the spiritual architecture around you has changed. Small cues will begin to show themselves, like the soft click of a lock that finally turns after years of resistance. Invitations will start appearing in unexpected places. People will mention opportunities casually, but the moment they speak, something in you will recognize it. It won't feel logical, it will feel ordained. Could it be that the opportunities showing up now are not new, but newly revealed? Is it possible you're stepping into what has always been yours, but your character finally caught up to your calling? Strangers will say things that feel like they were lifted straight from your private journals. You'll hear phrases in passing that match the exact words you've spoken in prayer. These aren't accidents. They are not coincidences. These are breadcrumbs from the divine, carefully placed to confirm the path beneath your feet. Psalm 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way." Notice it says steps, not leaps. The transfer is arriving in phases. Some will come through conversations, others through dreams, others through redirections that first feel like interruptions. But each step is a blueprint. You are being guided, not rushed, constructed, not simply promoted. In physics, there's a concept called quantum tunneling, where particles appear to pass through barriers that should be impossible. That's what's happening in the spirit. You are not breaking through because of force. You're breaking through because heaven is rewriting the laws that once limited you. What was once solid resistance is now permeable because of who you've become. The obstacle hasn't moved. You've evolved beyond it. And in all this, don't wait for lightning to confirm what faith already knows. The way forward might not feel spectacular, but it is profoundly significant. Don't mistake subtlety for smallness. Seeds are always quiet when they break open underground, but that breaking is what unlocks forests. 2 Corinthians 4:17 reminds us, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." The glory isn't separate from the suffering, it is born out of it. And now, as you stand here at the convergence point of divine timing and prophetic maturity, heaven is asking, can you hold the weight you prayed for? Can you carry the crown without losing the character you gained in the cave? You don't need to chase this moment. It is already finding you. As a final reminder, consider the words of architect and theologian Dr. Ritu Ellen Whitaker, whose sacred designs have been featured across European cathedrals. She once said, "True elevation doesn't begin with lifting the eye. It begins with bending the knee. And this is your hour to bow into alignment so that heaven can build through you. Because this isn't just a shift in your circumstances, it's the laying of a cornerstone in your calling. The ordinary is about to become extraordinary, but it won't announce itself with fireworks. It will arrive quietly through nudges, through shifts, through divine frequencies your flesh may miss if your spirit isn't fully awake. That's why this is not a moment for outer noise, it's a moment for inner knowing. Stay close to your intuition. Stay anchored in your discernment. Because in this next season, intuition will become your superpower. You'll feel it in your bones when the door opens. You won't need anyone to confirm it. Your dreams will speak louder than people. Your thoughts will echo in repeated patterns that can't be ignored. Ideas that haunt you lovingly. Phrases that keep returning in prayer. These aren't random. These are clues. These are breadcrumbs from God Himself, leading you through the unfamiliar path of supernatural transfer. John 10:27 says, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." In this phase, it's not about clear steps. It's about clear ears. The transfer won't come with printed instructions. It will come with prophetic insight. And only those who have learned to follow the whisper will walk into wealth. This is where logic often bows to leading. You'll need to say yes, even when your mind is still processing the how. Destiny has never followed the rules of logic. It's not mathematical. It's miraculous. And you've entered terrain where obedience matters more than comfort. And alignment matters more than acceptance. But can you follow a door that feels too easy after a season that was so hard? Can you walk through favor without questioning whether you deserve it? Some of you will notice people who once overlooked you suddenly turning back to take a second look. Not because you changed, but because your season did. There are doors that once felt sealed, shut, dead-bolted by time and resistance, that will now open like motion-activated glass, simply because you're finally moving at the right pace. Isaiah 22 says, "What He opens, no one can shut, and what He shuts, no one can open." This is not about your strength, it's about His sovereignty. There will be people who once dismissed your name, ignored your presence, or spoke against your future, and now they'll try to reattach themselves to your rising. Don't be shocked when they come back. Don't be offended. But don't be naive either. This is not the time to become bitter. It's time to become wise. You were never overlooked. You were being held for the moment that could carry your weight. You weren't hidden because you were unworthy. You were hidden because your revealing was tied to divine timing. Proverbs 3:6 reminds us, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths." The directing is happening now, not by force, but by flow. And as the transfer unfolds, remember this: you don't need to chase what's already been assigned to you. You don't have to beg for what's already yours. This is not the time to hustle your way into rooms God has already reserved in your name. Psalm 23:5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies," not in secret, not behind closed doors, in full view, and that includes people who once said your table would never exist. That's why you must learn to respond rather than react. Be still enough to recognize what's been rerouted to you, not because you fought for it, but because you grew into it. The harvest isn't chasing effort, it's chasing alignment. One real-life voice who understood this is Dr. Tererai Trent. a Zimbabwean-born educator and humanitarian, once a girl who wrote her dreams on a scrap of paper and buried them under a rock. She later earned her Ph.D. and became a global advocate for education. She once said, "The moment you surrender to your calling is the moment the universe rises to meet your feet." Dr. Trent's story reminds us, divine assignments don't respond to striving, they respond to surrender. And yet, history offers a warning too. Elizabeth Holmes, the once celebrated founder of biotech company Theranos, built her empire on charisma, ambition, and deception. She manipulated perception, exaggerated promises, and misled millions. Her fall from grace, resulting in conviction for fraud, was a chilling reminder that shortcuts and manufactured blessings never last when the foundation isn't built on truth. Even the most glamorous structures will eventually crumble. Are you ready to carry blessings that your ego doesn't need to control? Are you ready to receive without manipulating? Are you ready to walk like someone who knows what's yours will stick? Not because of your hustle, but because of your harvest. Because what's meant for you doesn't have to be forced. It's already magnetized to your maturity. It's already coded to your obedience. So now, the chosen one, it is time. Time to stop shrinking when heaven is expanding your space. Time to stop second-guessing what God already confirmed. Time to stop asking for permission to walk through doors He has already opened. You are not waiting on the next sign. You are the sign. This is your moment to rise from the waiting room and walk into the throne room, to speak what you know. Move as you're led, and live as though the promise is already pulsing in your hands. This is the hour where spectators watch, but the obedient move, and you are not a spectator. You are the shift. So get up, shake the dust off, stand in your full spiritual stature, speak boldly, walk confidently, trust relentlessly, obey immediately, because the heavens have released your name. The gates are already swinging open. The blessing is not on its way, it's here. This is the transfer, and you are the vessel. Now move like it. You sowed in a season when the soil looked barren and the sky refused to give signs. You gave when your hands were nearly empty. You loved when it cost you everything. And you stood when silence was your only audience. No one clapped. No one saw. But heaven recorded every moment, every sacrifice, every seed. And now it's coming back. Not just in return, but in multiplication. Galatians 6:9 tells us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." You didn't give up. You stayed faithful in the drought. And now you're stepping into the harvest nobody saw coming. Stay alert, because in this new era, blessings will not always come dressed in traditional packaging. They will arrive through back doors, side streets, and unexpected vessels. A conversation that feels casual might carry your next divine assignment. A delayed reply might unlock an opportunity that was being supernaturally aligned behind the scenes. Have you considered that the breakthrough might not come through what you're watching, but through what you've ignored? Have you asked yourself, what if the answer you've been seeking has already passed you disguised as inconvenience? A single act of obedience, seemingly small, might activate an entire sequence of favor. That's the nature of a divine transfer. It doesn't obey the structures of logic. It flows through the laws of faith, grace, and prophetic fulfillment. It travels through what I call divine loopholes, exceptions created by God Himself to bypass the systems that would have kept you locked out. Isaías 50:5, 8, 9 declares, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Heaven does not need approval from earthly gatekeepers to bless you. Your promotion does not depend on your social rank, your resume, or your bank account. Your obedience has already sent ripple effects into dimensions you haven't even perceived yet. Your name is already being whispered in rooms you've never entered. Your presence is already being felt in atmospheres your feet haven't even touched. Your spiritual frequency is announcing your arrival before your mouth ever says a word. That's how heaven works. It moves in multi-dimensional ways. When God releases something, it doesn't trickle, it pours. Will you live like it's already pouring? Or will you keep waiting for signs that have already passed? Will you walk like the door is open? Or hesitate until someone drags you through? This isn't the time to wait for validation. This is the time to prepare as if the overflow has already arrived. Clear out the clutter. Rearrange your priorities. Update your vision boards. Rehearse your answers for doors you haven't knocked on. Walk your hallways like you're pacing the corridors of promise, because you are. 2 Kings 3:17 says, "You will see neither wind nor rain, yet this valley will be filled with water." The blessing may not be preceded by signals, but it will show up. In the world of nature, there's a phenomenon known as cloud seeding, a process where elements are intentionally released into the atmosphere to stimulate rainfall in dry regions. You've been releasing faith into dry seasons, words, prayers, sacrifices, and now the clouds above your life are heavy with response. The downpour is scheduled, but it's your posture that determines whether you'll receive or resist. Psalm 126:5 says, "Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy." You sowed in tears. Now joy is tracking you like a river seeks low places. It's coming for the humble, the ready, the aligned. Desperation won't draw it in. Manipulation won't manufacture it, and doubt can't hold it. It's your frequency that determines your harvest. And frequency is not about emotion, it's about alignment. Just like bees find flowers by vibration, not appearance. What belongs to you will find you when your internal resonance is calibrated to your prophetic assignment. In the 2007 French Christian film, L'Enfant de Kabul, The Child of Kabul, a missionary says, "The water doesn't always run loudest where it's deepest, but that's where the roots are." Your faith may have been quiet, but it was deep, and now your roots are about to burst into visible fruit. So, walk like the delivery has been confirmed. Speak like the transfer has been initiated. Live like the room is already set. Because what is yours isn't trickling in, it's rushing toward you. You're not too late. You're not too old. You haven't missed it. You're not behind. You're right on heaven's blueprint, right on schedule for the divine handoff that was written into your scroll long before anyone knew your name. The timeline you feared was failing was never broken. It was being recalibrated in heaven's architectural clock tower. That's why certain doors refused to open, no matter how hard you knocked. They weren't rejected. They were redirects. They were protective mechanisms built into the foundation of your calling. Some doors would have led to collapse, not elevation. What looked like missed opportunities were actually spiritual engineering, safeguards, reinforced barriers to protect your alignment. Some relationships ended not because you were unlovable, but because they weren't anointed to walk with the version of you that's now emerging. You're not just growing, you're transforming. And transformation often causes friction with people who only recognize the old frame. Are you that about to rise? They wouldn't have known what to do with you. Isaiah 43:18-19 says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? The perception of this moment will determine your participation. If you're still mourning what ended, you'll miss what is being initiated. Your emotions have felt stretched. Not because you're unstable, but because your capacity is expanding. The internal architecture of your soul is being reinforced to carry weight you weren't assigned to in past seasons. Like a suspension bridge under redesign, you're being tensioned to handle divine traffic at levels never seen before. Could it be that the pressure you're under is not a warning sign, but evidence that your new structure is nearing completion? Could it be that your ache is not from breaking, but from being enlarged? This transfer isn't just about money or business or status. It's about identity. It's about recognition. It's about alignment. You're not just being blessed, you're being seen. And not for what you pretended to be, but for who you became in the fire. The version of you that suffered silently is about to become the version of you that shines unapologetically. And not for the sake of ego, but for the sake of evidence, so others can witness what heaven can do with someone who refuses to quit. Psalm 40:3 says, "He put a new song in my mouth. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in him." Your elevation isn't just for you, it's for the onlookers. Your rise will be a sermon without words. The divine isn't slow, it's strategic. What you called delay, heaven calls dimensional staging, a sacred choreography of resources, people, moments, and spiritual weight that had to align with precision. Like quantum entanglement in physics, multiple elements had to be connected behind the scenes before the transfer could manifest in the natural world. Romans 8:28 declares, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Notice it doesn't say some things, it says all things, even the silence, even the setbacks, even the seasons you thought you lost. Now, as the heavenly vaults begin to open, as doors start swinging wide, and as the current of favor changes direction, you will be marked by movement. Not everyone will understand it. Some will call it luck. Others will call it sudden. But you'll know the truth. Nothing about this was sudden. You waited long enough. You walked in faith when there was no evidence. You stood in rooms where you had to hide your hope because no one would understand. You carried a vision that didn't fit your circumstances. And now you're being invited into the very fulfillment you refused to abort. Yksi Peter 5:10 promises. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. You're not only being restored, you're being established, anchored, appointed, and activated. One figure who exemplifies this is Dr. W. Edith Eger, a Holocaust survivor and world-renowned clinical psychologist. She was once imprisoned in Auschwitz, nearly killed, and left for dead. But through decades of inner healing, she emerged not only as a survivor, but as a global voice of transformation. In her book, The Choice, she wrote, "Our painful experiences aren't a liability, they're a gift. They give us perspective and meaning." Her life proves that what once looked like the end was only the staging ground for something eternal. Will you receive what's always been written for you? Or will you delay it by staying in rooms God already exited? Will you live like someone whose name is already being assigned to legacy? This is not a rehearsal. This is the real thing. You've waited long enough. You've matured. You've been expanded. The season of explanation is over. This is the season of activation. So stay alert. Stay positioned. Stay aligned. You're not stepping into something random. You're stepping into what was designed for you from the beginning. All those nights you stayed up wondering if you were doing the right thing. All those mornings you pushed yourself through fog, through fatigue, through fear that no one else could see. This is the moment those private wars begin to yield a public harvest. But this harvest isn't common. It isn't general. It's a rare fruit, the kind of fruit that carries your name carved into its roots. The kind of fruit only grows in fields watered with silence, tended with tears, and guarded by faith when logic walks away. Galatians 6:6 says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. You sowed when it felt like famine. You gave when you had nothing left but hope. And now, heaven isn't just repaying you, it's entrusting you. There is a transfer happening. And once it begins, the acceleration will be undeniable. What felt like a life of waiting will collapse into a moment of supernatural movement. You'll blink and realize you're not where you used to be. The environment changed. The spiritual temperature shifted. It may not show on the outside right away, but your spirit will know. Can you feel the subtle difference in the air around your life? Can you sense that conversations you used to enjoy now feel dissonant? Even draining? That's not the mood. That's discernment sharpening. That's the inner confirmation that you've shifted dimensions. You'll start to feel a holy discontent toward misalignment. You'll be drawn to clarity, pulled toward presence, attracted to environments that feel like prophecy, not performance. That's how you'll know the transfer is real. It begins in your climate before it touches your calendar. Isaiah 61:3 says God gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. That exchange begins internally. Your emotional atmosphere will lift. Your energy will feel lighter, yet more potent, more focused, more aware. What's happening is not just material blessing, it's spiritual rewiring. The frequency of your spirit is being elevated, and the heavens are responding to the sound of your obedience. Your obedience created a sound unheard by men, but unmistakable to heaven. That sound is being answered now. It's being translated into ideas, strategies, opportunities, divine introductions, and sacred interruptions that will reroute everything in your favor. John 15:16 reminds us, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last." This is not luck. This is a legacy. This is what heaven had in mind when you were formed in secret. And it will come quickly, so quickly. It will feel like decades of delay are dissolving in days. But remember, just because the reward feels sudden doesn't mean the process was. Many will assume it happened overnight, but you'll know better. You'll remember the unpaid seasons, the invisible sacrifices, the thankless labor. You'll remember when you poured out and got nothing back except more capacity. One such story belongs to Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks. He grew up in public housing, the son of a truck driver who struggled to keep steady work. Schultz often recalled how seeing his father injured and unsupported by the system fueled his desire to create a company with dignity at its core. Years later, when he transformed Starbucks into a global giant, he said, "When you're surrounded by a lot of people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible." Schultz's rise was not immediate. It was built in silence, in the spaces where vision grew when no one else believed. But not every builder chooses the truth. Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX, and once hailed as the crypto genius, promised to revolutionize finance with transparency and ethics. But behind the scenes, billions in customer funds were allegedly misused to prop up risky investments and personal luxuries. When the truth unraveled, it triggered one of the largest crypto collapses in history. Investors were devastated, trust was shattered, and Bankman-Fried now faces criminal charges, a ruined legacy, and the very real consequence of betraying a calling for personal gain. His story is a sober warning. Misused favor becomes judgment. What begins as brilliance, when corrupted by pride, becomes a cautionary tale. Divine doors don't protect those who weaponize them for ego. So the real question is this: will your harvest be the product of faith or the result of forced performance? Will your rise be built on surrender or manufactured through shortcuts? Because heaven blesses obedience, not optics. The reward is not just for the visible sacrifice, it's for the faithful consistency. You kept building when no one saw. You kept giving when nothing returned. You kept trusting when your heart was breaking in private. Psalm 126:6 says, "Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them." The weeping is over, the carrying has begun. And now, chosen one, the reaping begins, that sacred memory, the one carved in your soul when no one clapped, when no spotlight shined, and when your obedience felt invisible, will be your anchor when the elevation begins. It will guard your spirit when new doors swing open and applause echoes louder than prayer. It will whisper truth when pride tries to rise with the platform. That memory isn't weakness, it's insulation. It shields your heart from spiritual vertigo in high places. Because you'll remember, this journey was never about being noticed, it was always about being named. Now is the hour to step fully into the overflow without shrinking in shame. Why does the world criticize those who rise after years of suffering? Why does it mock abundance in the hands of those who bled in silence? Could it be that the very people who cheered your brokenness now feel threatened by your breakthrough? It's because carnal systems cannot discern spiritual stewardship, but your abundance is not a trophy. It's a tool, not just for you, but for generations. It's meant to fund systems that glorify God, to revive bloodlines left for the dead, and to build heavenly architecture that's never been constructed before. That's why you cannot let guilt sabotage your growth. Nature gives us a sacred reflection of this truth. The baobab tree stores water in times of drought, not for vanity, but for survival. It becomes an ecosystem for others when the world dries up. So must you. Your overflow will become a refuge. Your success is a prophecy in motion. You will be a blessing. God told Abraham in Genesis 12:2, and that same covenant is stirring in your bloodstream now. So don't apologize for what's arriving. Own it. Steward it. Multiply it. Let what's happening in your life serve as confirmation for someone still hidden in their preparation. When heaven moves, it doesn't need a stage. It needs a surrendered vessel. You will begin to sense the shift, not in loud explosions, but in gentle signs. One morning, peace will arrive, unprovoked. That's the whisper of alignment. Another day, your spirit will lead you to text someone, and it will unlock a favor you didn't plan for. At night, you may wake with revelation so clear it feels downloaded. These are not coincidences. These are the mechanics of the divine at work. In the 2003 German film Luther, Martin Luther says, "Here I stand. I can do no other." That's your posture now. You're not chasing confirmation. You are the confirmation. You're not pleading for movement. You carry the movement. And just like tectonic plates shift before an earthquake, the spiritual plates beneath your life are realigning, subtle yet seismic. The nudge you feel is not imaginary. It is heaven laying down the blueprint of your next chapter. Layer by sacred layer. This moment is not random. The same Spirit who raised Christ from the dead is orchestrating your rise with such divine symmetry that even your past pain is finding its purpose. Every whisper you obey, every step you take, is building your transfer like strands of gold in an invisible tapestry. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Psalm 37-23. This is not chaos, it's choreography. And now, don't just survive the transfer, stand up in it. Declare what you see in the Spirit before it touches the ground. Open your mouth. Speak with boldness. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. And in this hour, your words are the blueprint for your future. Don't echo fear. Declare a promise. Don't rehearse. Proclaim overflow. Your faith must match your forecast, because you chose one. This is not just your rise, it's your release. Declare what you are expecting. Call in what is assigned to your spirit. This isn't wishful thinking or blind optimism, it's strategic, spiritual physics. In quantum mechanics, particles respond to the observer's expectation, and in the realm of the spirit, faith is the force field that collapses divine potential into visible manifestation. This is not superstition. This is alignment. The spiritual realm is not random. It is rhythmic. It responds to vibration. Right now, your spiritual frequency is shifting out of survival mode and into supernatural synchronization. That's why people from your past are suddenly resurfacing. It's not always about them. It's about what your growth is revealing. Your rising frequency disturbs the frequencies of stagnation, and this energetic dissonance begins to rearrange your environment without your permission. That unease you feel in old circles, that inner restlessness in rooms that once felt like home, those are divine indicators. You are no longer harmonizing with outdated cycles. You are being tuned for divine timing. Hebrews 12:27 reminds us that God allows the shaking so that only the unshakable things will remain. So don't panic when things fall apart. Recognize it as a spiritual excavation. The scaffolding of your former season must come down to make space for the architecture of your assignment. Disruption is not always demonic. In fact, it often precedes delivery. You may feel as though parts of your life are being deconstructed, but understand this. In heaven's architectural blueprint, demolition is a prerequisite for expansion. You can't build the sanctuary of your calling on the ruins of your coping mechanisms. The soil must be cleared before the seed is planted. Emotional clutter must be swept away to make space for the roots of destiny to grow deep and wide. This is not the time to cling to the familiar simply because it's predictable. You must be willing to exchange familiar pain for unfamiliar peace. Why? Because peace, true peace, is disruptive. It shifts what you tolerate. It disrupts what you settle for. As Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." This means God's peace doesn't come quietly, it comes to govern. The spiritual transfer you're sensing, it cannot land on spiritual hoarding. Clutter, mental, emotional, or relational, is a frequency blocker. That's why old wounds are resurfacing. It's not to torment you, but to be released from your system. Healing is the spiritual detox needed to prepare you for what's next. As Isaiah 43:18-19 commands, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing." This is your call to clear the altar. Rearrange the inner sanctuary of your mind, spirit, and vision. Don't just clean your house. Prepare it like royalty is about to visit. That's exactly what's happening. Royal assignments are being handed down, and your preparation is the proof of your readiness. To ground this, consider the story of French architect Jean Nouvel, who once said, "Space is not about decoration, it's about precision," known for designing bold, unconventional structures like the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. His work is a physical reminder that real beauty flows from daring to break with tradition. In the same way, God is designing something through your life that's never been built before, and He requires you to create space, not just make it look nice. The season you're entering doesn't require hustle. It requires harmony. It doesn't demand force. It demands flow. That's why doors you used to chase are now being opened without knocking. That's why the favor you used to fast for is now finding you in stillness. When you're in divine alignment, what once required strategy now responds to identity. You'll simply begin to attract what aligns. No more chasing. No more striving to prove your worth. What's divinely assigned to you will be magnetized by the frequency your soul now emits. You won't need to beg for seats at tables not built for you. The room will recognize your voice before you speak. The door will recognize your presence before you knock. The weight you once carried in silence is now becoming the authority you wear without effort. That's what happens when favor finds you. It distinguishes you before you even introduce yourself. Much like Joseph, who was pulled from prison and placed before Pharaoh, the divine hand is about to reposition you in places your preparation has been quietly leading you toward. The Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Genesis 39-23. His success was not birthed in the spotlight, but in the secret, faithful obedience of his hidden years. This isn't just a blessing, it's a recalibration, a divine software update to your spirit, running in the background while you move forward in obedience. And just like the phases of the moon or the hidden growth of roots beneath the soil, this transformation won't always look spectacular, but it will always be strategic. A shift, each delay, each detour has been mapped by heaven's architecture with pinpoint precision. Even the slow days are loaded with hidden momentum. David didn't become a king overnight. He was anointed long before he was crowned. And during the in-between, he worshipped in caves, dodged spears, and led others with integrity. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways. Psalm Shloshim Sheba. Do you realize that your delay may actually be divine protection, not denial? Just as Moses wasn't allowed to step into leadership prematurely, you too are being trained by fire and tested by time. The Red Sea didn't part until the Israelites stood still in faith. Timing matters in the kingdom. The waters move only when the word has been declared. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus pais presece. The divine transfer doesn't just happen, it is orchestrated. And in the same way God instructed Noah to build the ark long before the first raindrop, you've been constructing obedience in a dry place. By faith, Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, in reverent fear, constructed an ark. Hebrews 11:7. That ark didn't just save him, it redefined history. And what you're building now in secret will preserve more than you know. So stay sensitive to timing. Not everything will come all at once, but every step will be perfectly timed. Trust the slow moments as much as the fast ones. The quiet days are just as powerful as the loud ones. Every move is strategic. You are being guided. The transfer is not just coming, it is choreographed. And you are dancing with the divine now, whether you realize it or not. Like Esther, whose entire purpose was hidden in her positioning until such a time as this. You too are being positioned with precision. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. And now, chosen one, if something in your spirit has been stirring, if you've felt that unexplainable pull, that sense that the invisible is shifting around you, it's because heaven is making room for what's already carrying your name. You are not here by accident. You didn't endure all that pain just to return to ordinary. There is a divine transfer in motion. And it's not just about blessing, it's about blueprint, about assignments, about alignment. What's coming for you carries generational weight. It's bigger than applause, bigger than visibility. It's sacred. So don't shrink. Don't second-guess the sound of your own obedience. Walk forward boldly. Speak as one who has seen the storm and still chose surrender. Move as one who knows that even silence can be a strategy. Because this moment is the unfolding of everything that once felt denied. You are not late. You are right on divine time. If this message confirmed what you've been sensing in the spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Comment 777 if you're ready for what heaven has written with your name on it. Share this with someone else walking through a quiet war. Like this video if your faith was stirred, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. This space is more than content. It's confirmation. To every one of you watching, whether you've supported through super thanks or simply showed up with your presence and attention, thank you. Your presence here matters deeply. You are part of a rising remnant that heaven is equipping and calling by name. Until next time, may you be covered in clarity, strength, and supernatural peace. May doors open with ease. May hidden things be revealed. And may your next steps be guided by divine precision. God bless you. The transfer has begun. Stay ready.